Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen to my short story here about my experience with the Data Science Institute and Columbia. I'm pretty excited to give this presentation. I've given presentations on other topics before, but never one regarding our Data Science Institute. So it's a pretty exciting opportunity for me. Really happy that I was invited to do this. So in the first slide, this is me. My name is Francisco Javier Arceo. I began in the certificate program this past fall, and I was accepted and transitioning into the master's program. I did not finish the certificate program because I took a little bit of a different path. Most students take a set of coursework that is in the certificate program. I did a little bit differently than that because of my background, so I'll elaborate on that later on. So I'm pretty excited to show you guys what I have today. So you guys, I've introduced myself to you. I'd like to walk you through some of what the campus looks like, which is by far the most beautiful campus I've seen. It's right in New York City, the best city in the universe. And some academic highlights and some stories outside the classroom, what that environment has really been like. And so please, I ask all of you to mute your audio as well as your video. So that way we're not confused over sound and there's not too much noise in the background. I'd really appreciate that. So thank you, everyone. And I'll get started. So I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I did my undergraduate degree in economics at Illinois State University in Central Illinois. I then went on to graduate school where I studied economics and statistics. My focus was in applied econometrics. I was really interested in statistics and, its applications, particularly for labor economics or labor econometrics, however you'd like to call it. And that was most of my research in graduate school. So I was in graduate school for about a year. And then after I finished, I moved to New York where I was. So I was in graduate school. I was in South Carolina, and after that, I had received a couple offers, one in Chicago, one in Boston, and one in New York here. And ultimately, I decided to go to the one in New York. It seemed really interesting at the time, and that was my first it was the start of my career in this data science or analytics or whatever you want to call it. It's been around for a while. I think this whole rebranding of data science is probably the most appropriate definition of the term. I think it's really interesting to hear the various different definitions you hear of data science. And I think our department does a really good job of synthesizing what that exactly is. And so my current role is at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. It's an Australian bank. I recently joined in January. Previous to that, I was in the data science group with American International Group, or AIG, here in New York, headquartered in downtown Manhattan. And that was a really fun group. I really enjoyed my time there, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. But that's the high-level background of me. So before Columbia, what was I doing? I was at Clemson University, which is a university in South Carolina, historically an agricultural school. What brought me to South Carolina and to Clemson in particular was actually funny. I don't know if I had much of an interest in graduate school, but I was interested in doing the Peace Corps. As a brief reminder, everyone who is not, please make sure to put your computer or phone on mute, please. So I was brought to Clemson because of a particular program that they offer called the Peace Corps Masters International. Where you do a year of graduate study and then 2.5 years in the Peace Corps, and then eventually come back and finish the rest of your graduate degree. And that was really my appeal to Clemson. So that's what actually drove me to graduate school the first time. And I had a lot of fun there. It was really interesting learning about more advanced statistics than what I learned in my undergraduate degree. And I realized I wanted to work in this field of like analytics or statistics because I really enjoyed playing with data. I thought it was a really interesting way to approach the world. Unfortunately, I didn't end up following through with the Peace Corps for personal reasons, but I ended up moving on to a different career, and actually my current profession ties in a really nice way to what I kind of hope to do in the Peace Corps. When I went to Clemson, I was hoping to focus in microfinance, and my current profession is kind of focusing on something quite similar. After my first job at Ipsos, I moved to AIG to work with them in the financial district, and that was a really fun, great team. And that was when I was really introduced to the hardcore data science that you probably hear in the news or in the media about actually, natural language processing, image processing, and building super fancy predictive models, more than the classical statistical models that you might think about in biometrics or economics. And again, now I'm a data scientist for the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, where I'm actually working on building risk models for targeting in South Africa, which is, in the hopes to benefit the emerging middle class. So it ties very nicely to what I wanted to do back at Clemson. And so that was part of the reason why I decided to make the move. It spoke to me personally, and it's been a really great opportunity since. My colleagues are really, really brilliant people, and it's a pleasure to be around them every day. So that's where I was before Columbia and where I am kind of now. And so I know that there are a lot of different programs out there. There's Northwestern's Masters in Analytics. There's North Carolina State's Masters in Analytics as well. NYU's program. And I think Stanford has a specialty in the statistics department specializing in data science. So there are a bunch of really great programs. And I think the reason that I chose Columbia was because, it is in the heart of New York City. And it's a university with just a great legacy of brilliant academics. And that was a huge appeal to me. In fact, my first encounter with the university was through the Community Impact Organization, which is a philanthropic organization within Columbia. And my focus was in the GED task program. So I volunteered as a mathematics instructor, but it was very elementary mathematics. And that was when I first had gotten here to New York, which is almost 4 years ago. And I loved it. I loved seeing the campus. I loved the people that I was assisting and the colleagues that I was teaching with. And it really made me fall in love with the university. And when I was thinking about programs, I decided that really the only university that was interesting to me was Columbia. NYU is definitely a great program in New York. CUNY does have a program as well. A fellow colleague of mine is actually in finishing up. He was in the inaugural class at NYU, and he really loved it. He got to actually take a class with Jan LeCun, who's now the chief AI officer at Facebook. So they're all wonderful programs. I chose Columbia because I knew it would have a great staff of faculty, and because of its personal appeal to me. So I definitely think that in every way, all of these different programs have their benefits and merits. And I chose my decision to focus on Columbia as a very personal one. And, my beginning with the certificate program was an interesting path because at the time of my application, the program didn't yet exist. They were expecting to actually roll out the master's program, and there was a lag in some of the paperwork. Ultimately, they were able to roll out, and it was great. And so I was proposed the option of applying for the computer science master's program or the certificate program. And I decided to go with the certificate program. And in fact, I was advised by my former colleague, the chief data scientist at AIG, to actually pursue the certificate program. He told me it'd be a really fun, great program. And he was a former adjunct at Columbia. He taught a Bayesian inference class that I'll speak to later. And so it was really great. It was a nice introduction, and it was really, really great way to start. So let's see. So some of my favorite things about Columbia and the program, machine learning for data science. I'm my background was in applied econometrics, and at AIG I did mostly machine learning type modeling, and so that class really, really spoke to me. It was really, really fun. Absolutely loved it. The homework assignments were really great. The professor is a really, really brilliant gentleman. He studied under David Bly, Michael Jordan, some of those brilliant researchers in the field of natural language processing and, probabilistic modeling for non-negative matrix factorization. So it's really, really great tier 1 faculty. The Columbia Data Science Society, there are a lot of clubs within our organization, and everyone's really responsive, everyone's really communicative, willing to help out. And the hackathon, we did this data science hackathon this past year with Cornell Tech. And it was one of the first few ventures where Cornell and Columbia joined together, and it was a really fun opportunity. I got to spend a lot of time with my classmates, and it was really fun. It was really fun. So again, where am I now? At the Commonwealth Bank. I'm a data scientist there, and I'm beginning my second year in the fall. I'm taking a summer class right now, an elective in the sustainability management class, management department, and it's helping me on a different set of skills, not necessarily focused on, purely technical, that is to say, like programming, math, it's just exercising a different part of my skill set, which I think is really great. Because speaking as someone in the field, one thing that I see as a limitation for some programs is not focusing enough on soft skills. And it definitely adds a lot of value to you professionally and ultimately to your place in the labor market. So 2 Truths and Lies is a fun gag that I think the gentleman that helped me create this deck, LiveGuide, helped me put together. And so 2 of these things are true. 1 of them is not. And, you can all gamble on which one, and you can all send me a message. I'll take a quick tally and see which one people think is the most probable. But 1, I used to salsa dance. 2, I used to deliver pizza. Or 3, I used to compete as a boxer. So again, you guys feel free to send me a personal message, and I'll tally up what everybody thinks is the truth and is the lie. So you guys previously sent in some questions to Josh, and I took some time to read through them, and I came up with 3 really important ones that I really thought it was worth assessing. Oh, so I should specify because I was unclear before. Send me in a chat which you think is a lie. That's the most perfect. So I wanted to go through and answer these sets of questions because I thought these 3 were the best. So do I think there was a benefit in going through the certificate program? Well, I don't have the counterfactual, but in every way I would say yes. I think part of the reason that I didn't apply to the computer science master's versus the certificate was because I didn't have a programming background. All of my programming I learned on the job. I remember my first project at AIG, they asked me to code up some stuff in R, and all I really knew was Stata. I had tinkered a little bit with SQL and SAS, and I was like, yeah, I'll learn it. So most of my programming was self-taught, and it was a really great opportunity to sharpen my skills. Because to be honest, I don't think I would have been as successful. I wouldn't have been accepted to the computer science master's program is my gamble, because I lacked the programming background. And that's a really, really useful skill and critical skill for acceptance, I think. But in the certificate program, it gave me the opportunity to show and prove that I am quite a good programmer. And in the homework assignments, I very much proved that. And that was part of the reason that I was so successful in transitioning from the certificate program into the master's program. there's definitely a higher probability if you're coming from the certificate program rather than if you're just applying against all applicants. So the conditional probability is much, much higher. So of certificate students that apply to the master's program, there's a significantly higher acceptance rate than those that apply just straight into the master's program. Obviously you have to perform well. There were people that were not accepted from the certificate program, without a doubt. But, if you perform really well and strongly, there'll definitely be a place for you. In the website, there's much more details about the actual coursework, the differences between the two. And there's one major class that differs between the two, which is the probability and statistics. So when I was taking the program, I decided to skip the certificate probability and statistics course and actually took the master's one instead. I wouldn't recommend that to everyone. I have a master's in statistics from before, so it had a very relevant background. And it was a tough course, but I think, it's something that you can definitely talk with the department about. And if they feel that if your background's capable for that, then I think that that's an option for some people. But again, I wouldn't set that as my initial expectation. I was an exception. Everyone else pretty much took the statistics class, or the probability and statistics, the joint certificate class. So the second question, what skill sets has the program helped you hone, and how have these skills impacted your work? This is a really great question because, I'm currently a data scientist, which, begs many questions. And one thing that it's absolutely done is it's improved my skills as a programmer. I think before I was okay programming stuff, it definitely was something that could always be polished. Programming is a lifelong skill that you develop. And ultimately, the program helped me significantly with that, whether using different languages like Python and R, or just how to think about programming a problem. The algorithms class that all students are required to take is one of the most incredible classes that I've ever taken. And then the professor is really great, and I'll talk more about that later. But it helps you think much, much more strategically about how to solve programming problems. It exposes you to a lot of different techniques. In my department at Commonwealth Bank, I spent a lot of time applying a lot of machine learning algorithms, and people go to me assuming that I'm quote unquote an expert in the area, and so this has only broadened my knowledge from my previous exposures in nutrition to now someone with a more machine learning focus, and how those kind of overlap. So in every way, it's been impactful to someone in the field. I would definitely recommend that to anyone considering that. So what are the career opportunities for data scientists? There are a ton of career opportunities. Some of them are as software engineers for machine learning. I have some friends that are focusing particularly on optimizing particular machine learning algorithms, which is a really, really useful field for people like Google, or firms like Google or Facebook or Amazon or Audible.com, if you've heard of them. Once you are trying to optimize large-scale machine learning problems, there's a huge area of growth for that. And then more generally, data science is one of the New York Times rated hot jobs of this year. So there are definitely a lot of opportunities for data scientists, whether it's in a financial company, in a tech company, an insurance company, a marketing company, or starting your own business. There are a lot of startups rising just for data science. One of my former colleagues went to a startup called Data Robot. Another went to Audible.com. Some stayed in finance, some stayed in insurance, some stayed in marketing. But the need for a data scientist is only increasing, and the demand and the supply is still not quite up to the market. So it's definitely a great time to be a data scientist, and there are tons of opportunities. I get messages at least a couple times a week from recruiters, saying, hey, would you be interested in this opportunity? So again, that's actually not, a job offer, but it's a solicitation of potentially being interested in a job. And then, so it's insightful about the market. So there's definitely a huge market for data scientists, whether it's internationally or nationally. There's definitely a huge need for data scientists internationally as well. So moving on. So the other things I want to talk about today are a short tour of campus, because it's a really important part for those of you that haven't visited Columbia before. So my academic highlights throughout this past year, and then some stories outside the classroom, what I've experienced being a data science student outside of Columbia. And so this is the campus, which I'm sure some of you, or hopefully all of you, have Googled photos of it. It's a really, really beautiful campus, one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever seen. It's in Morningside Heights, which is in the northwest end of Manhattan. So the great advantage is you're really close to Midtown, to the Upper West Side, and a bunch of great hip restaurants. It's an awesome part of campus. I actually, when I first started in the program, I moved right next to campus. I just recently moved again, but it's a great neighborhood. I absolutely love the neighborhood and the people all around. It's a very academic environment. And so you'll see here the science engineering library makes up a significant proportion of the campus. And right in the dead center, you see the administration building. As a brief reminder, can everyone go on mute, please? And on the east side, which is this portion, Amsterdam, we have the engineering school right here, this is the computer science department, and this is the engineering library. And they're really beautiful. This is Teachers College right along here, north of 120th Street. It's a really great part of campus. It's really beautiful. Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. The views you get at sunset during the winter time when it snows, it's breathtaking. Again, this is more of the engineering campus. I don't spend a ton of time in the engineering campus side. I spend most of my time in Mud Hall, which is on the other side. If I flip back, Mud Hall is here, which is where I spend most of my time. It's a great building. Have a lot of fun there. But it's a building. And so this is Columbia in general. If you look at it from the alma mater statue, which is a really beautiful statue. Again, the campus is really breathtaking, and this picture really doesn't do it justice. There are always students, hanging around campus, just enjoying the scenery, talking, thinking, and so it's a really great environment. These are some photos that I've taken, really cheesy, but I really enjoy the campus. And so my first time on campus, my first experience at Columbia was auditing a class before I actually started the program with my former colleague, Sid Dalal. He's now the chief data scientist at AIG. Before that, he was the chief technology officer of Rand Institute, and before that, I think he was at Bell Labs. But at the time, he was also an adjunct at Columbia, and he was teaching a Bayesian inference class. And he was the one who encouraged me to pursue the certificate program. And I'm really grateful that I did. I was in the mathematics building. I remember how stoked I was, because I'm a bit of a math nerd. And it was very romantic to me to think about, taking my first class in the mathematics building at Columbia, where, people like Edward Lorenz had spent their time, if you know anything about chaos theory. So it was really great. I was really happy with it. And eventually that's what led me to pursuing the certificate program, because I had my hesitations. I did. And for many of you that might not have been accepted to the master's program, but were recommended to the certificate, it is a really great option. And if you're considering reapplying, to the master's program, it's a great way to add a lot to your resume. And so the part of campus that I call home, Avery Hall, Mud Hall, and Uris. Mud Hall is, again, where the Department of Computer Science mostly stays. That might be changing. There's been some construction over the summer. Avery Hall is a campus that I used to, when I was teaching GD classes through Community Impact, that was where I used to teach a class, and so I'd study there occasionally. It's a really great part of campus, but not many people in the data science department will be in Avery. And Uris Hall is a place where several of my friends in the data science program have chosen to spend all of our time studying for finals. And this is my friend Steve here on the right, falling asleep right before I think it was our machine learning final. And, you know, it was a fun time. So, you know, I want to leave a little bit of room for people to ask questions. Does anybody have any questions? So far, I don't have any questions in the chat, but if you have any quick questions, you're welcome to shoot some now. And as a reminder, can all of you make sure that you're on mute? Or your audio is? So I just received a question that's a good question. What should an incoming master's student, one who just graduated, prepare himself for to be at par with other students who have previous industry experience? So, you know, I'll answer that in two parts. One, to prepare yourself in general, I would recommend really making sure that you have some good programming chops. R is a very easy language to program and so is Python. And there are really wonderful free documentation available all over the internet. You know, there's Learn Python the Hard Way. There's a bunch of R books out there. And that's how I learned how to program, and just trying to do different things. You know, there are a bunch of mathematical algorithm problems that you can try on. But to be honest with you, what I'd recommend is pulling data. Kaggle.com, if you guys have ever heard of it, is a great resource for tinkering with data, trying new things, and thinking about what might work in like a predictive model or machine learning sense. You know, in fact, some of the best people in machine learning right now have come just from tinkering with Kaggle and reading on their own. They were that autodidactic that they could do that. And for some, it takes a little bit more structured environment. And you know, I think I'm more in that vein. So I would say definitely start tinkering with programming if you haven't in the past. Second, start looking at jobs on LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn has been a great resource for me personally. You know, about what people are looking for, and then try stuff. You know, just try so much stuff. You know, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get over that inertia that sometimes you have when you're looking at a problem and saying, that seems too cumbersome to try and do right now. Just go do it. You know, if you're thinking about learning Hadoop, don't think about it, just do it. If you're thinking about trying to figure out how to estimate a model this way, don't think about it, just do it. And then have something about it on your resume. You know, and then that'll help you prepare for what's coming in the fall. Yeah, I hope that helps. And then as far as the industry expertise, there are actually a lot of people that are not in the industry, that are in completely different fields. And that's a pretty neat thing. You know, people that are very, very successful in very different fields, whether it's IT, whether it's finance, whether it's marketing, you know, they're all coming to this very new. So it's interesting because there are a handful of us that are currently in the industry that are in the program, but most of them are not. And so it's nice. You don't have to worry too much about industry experience. And Rachel Feld, who is the career advisor, is really, really wonderful. I had a meeting with her a couple weeks ago, and she really takes it upon herself to make sure that your long-term goals are going to be met. You know, she and I spoke about my career path and what I want to do throughout the program and even beyond it, and she was really helpful. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of support there. So I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and because I got a lot of them. So let's see. This is a really good question. What is the student study life like? There are many students from various backgrounds. Do students support each other, form study groups, or do folks work mostly on their own? Yeah, so, I study with a ton of different students, and I highly recommend you do too. Just be communicative with them. I know, speaking as someone in the field, most people in data science tend to be a little bit more quiet, a little more reticent and reserved, but, feel welcome to reach out to people. People are always really friendly and always really happy to help each other in coding or in solving a problem. And, I personally love study groups because that's a way where I can vocalize what my understanding of a problem is and see if it's wrong or if it's right. And it's often very beneficial for me. So I encourage you guys to reach out to your classmates the moment you get to class. Sit next to somebody you don't know and say hi. Let's study together or something. Okay, so what is the level of support in the administration for the data science master's program? My experience with Columbia is that it is a very big place with very little structure and support. How is it career support? So I would definitely disagree with that statement. It is a very big place. It's a very big university, absolutely. But the data science group is very, very intimate. I speak with Jonathan Stark regularly. I speak with Rachel whenever I want. I can go by there, drop by, and say hi. They know my face. They know my name. They know pretty much the name of every student in the program. And they were relentless when it came to placing people for internships. Every single student in the data science department had a great internship. So it's a really great opportunity. I'm going to answer two more questions, really quick ones. Is there any recommendations do you have to prepare for the algorithms class? Super hard class. Absolutely loved it. It was probably the hardest class I've ever taken. And I would recommend taking some Coursera courses. The book that we use is available. I believe that Eleni might have even published her notes from the class. So go read through them. Graph theory is useful. Programming in Python is useful. But, so those are some two quick recommendations. Okay, so last one. Large data sets, go to Kaggle.com, all of you. It's probably the greatest way you can really start to figure out how to work on new different things. And people publish a ton of information on there. It's amazing. And so you guys asked a lot of questions. I'll come back to them. I really do want to answer them though, so I'll make sure to get back to them soon. Okay, moving on. So some academic highlights, some things that I think have been really cool. The people in every metric, or in every way. On the left is Jonathan Stark, again, someone whom I've spent a lot of time speaking with. Rachel is the second person. She's the career advisor. Again, really, really nice, really encouraging, and really communicative. These people are all really interested in your success, and that's really wonderful to hear. It's definitely a place where they're hoping to mentor you. And so, I've had a little bit of a unique role with Rachel in the sense that, I get to feed in information to her because I'm actually somebody in the field. So that's kind of an exciting thing. David Bly is the third person. You get to meet him on the inauguration day, I think. At least my cohort did. And it's awesome. He's, literally the guy who wrote the book on topic models. He's absolutely brilliant. Previous to Columbia, he was a professor in the Department of Computer Science at Princeton. And prior to that, he was at Berkeley with Michael Jordan, who's, one of the biggest guys in machine learning. And then there's Eleni. She's, the professor for algorithms. She's the professor in the Department of Computer Science. She did her PhD at Harvard. She's extraordinarily brilliant, precise, and really understands algorithms to a very, very extreme degree. I've never met someone with such a detailed understanding and intuition about anything really. It's absolutely wonderful. And John Paisley is the second to last person. He's a machine learning professor, and his class is awesome. He's a really friendly guy. He's very flexible with things. On homeworks, he doesn't try to make them super impossible or insurmountable. Maybe it's my bias and my background in statistics, but his homeworks are really fun, and I'll get into a little bit in the presentation. And then finally, Dr. Ben David, the last gentleman on the right here, he was the professor of the statistical inference and modeling course. He's very quiet, but very brilliant. He's more of a theorist in the statistics department. And I absolutely loved his class. I took it in the fall, and it was really enlightening. It was definitely, especially with my background in statistics, it was really great to hear about a bunch of different things about statistics that I hadn't encountered before. So, an academic highlight, the machine learning class, right? So I keep talking about this. And I really love the two examples I'm going to show because they're really fun. And it kind of, for those of you that don't have a background in machine learning and more have a background in applied math or economics or finance, it gives you sheds a little bit of light on what you do. So in some cases, you have some sort of matrix that you want to fully populate. And there's this entire class of models called non-negative matrix factorization models. And there are two particularly interesting applications, one of which is image processing. So understanding images given a set of images, understanding what the average face might look like. And that's exactly what's on the right here. And if you build a model on faces, trying to understand what is a potential face, you can see your model performance going to conversion. And that was a really interesting homework assignment. That was the fifth homework assignment I got to, and it was really fun. My code's on GitHub if you want to see it. He might kill me for giving away homework. I should check with him. And the next slide is on non-negative matrix factorization for natural language processing, which is where you get to learn about topic modeling, which is David Bly's main research of interest, and John Paisley's as well. You might have heard of it called latent Dirichlet allocation or latent semantic analysis. Essentially, what you do is, given a set of text information, you can learn underlying thematic structures of the data. So if I have a bunch of New York Times articles, I can say, hey, look, what are the underlying themes of the data, of all of these pieces of writing? And, for the homework, we got to produce this, and what it says is, hey, look, in column 4, there's this latent topic, which is school, student, class, college. So these words are all related together in some probabilistic way, and so on and so forth for all these other columns. And so this is a really cool example. I mean, I was freaking out when I got my code to work and I saw this because I thought it was so fun. But maybe there are people that are much more interesting than me. And statistical inference and algorithms. The algorithms book is like that thick. It is not small. Definitely worth reading. It's the standard in the industry. I've interviewed with a lot of tech firms, and they definitely ask you algorithm questions. So it's a class that I recommend studying diligently because it's one of the most critical classes for being successful as a data scientist. Thinking about the underlying performance of your algorithms or code is really important. It actually really is. Even in the age where we have super sophisticated computers, Google and Facebook struggle to, or not struggle, but they spend a lot of money optimizing code because when you're working on a terabyte or petabyte of data, it's important that it's not inefficient. And so, this on the left is from the statistical inference class, and it's a picture about a non-informative prior. It's just an interesting Bayesian inference thing. Another academic highlight was the Cornell Tech Data Science Hackathon that I told you about before. So Cornell Tech is actually located in Google's building here in Chelsea, which is pretty cool. And they invited Columbia students and some MIT students as well to come and present in this or perform or participate in this hackathon. And it was pretty awesome. I stayed with essentially my classmates. That's Tony here. That's Steve here. And Aaron is in the background, somewhere over here, deeply helping the PowerPoint actually work. And I gave the presentation. And we essentially took some Yelp data and built a system that told restaurants why they were doing bad. So essentially, we took a bunch of reviews about restaurants and did some natural language processing and found a way to cleverly tell restaurants what their bad areas are and how they could improve. And we did this for Las Vegas and built a little web tool, and it was pretty fun. It was really, really awesome opportunity to work really closely with my classmates. We were there for like a day and a half straight, and we ultimately presented. We placed in the top 10, which is really great. Ultimately, we didn't win in the top 3, but the top 10 was a really big, awesome thing to have. And, you know, I left at like 4 o'clock in the morning. This was a selfie I took right as I was leaving Google, because I thought that was really awesome. You know, I have a couple of friends that work at the Chelsea office here in Google, and, you know, it's a really great place to be in. Cornell Tech's campus in there is really, really nice. And that was some of the code that I wrote in my Mac on the right. You know, get used to programming. For all of you guys that don't have a lot of exposure to it, I highly recommend it. Whether it's, you know, writing bash scripts or writing, you know, anything in any language, just code, just, you know, start from the terminal and then keep going. Yeah. So I'm going to answer some more of the questions that you guys had posted. And you're welcome to ask more. I can't promise that I'll answer them all, because we have a lot of them here. So let me see. Have I been developing a relationship with my colleagues in my class? Do we all take the same class? Yes. You know, so for the certificate students, we all took the same classes, except for the probability and statistics. I took the regression, the statistical inference and modeling class instead. Again, because I had a background, but I developed a relationship with those students as well. Tony and Steve were both in that class, in fact. You know, I've developed a pretty meaningful relationship with some of the students, and I think they're really great. So I highly encourage you to do the same, because ultimately what you'll find is these are people that will be your peers in the industry in 5-10 years. And you definitely want to keep close relationship with them. You know, I can't tell you enough how many times I've been solicited by a recruiter because one of my former colleagues recommended me to him or her. So being close with your peers is really important, professionally and collegially. You know, it's really great to have that spirit. So for a working professional, I will be in the program in the fall while working full-time. How have you found the work-school balance, both in terms of time spent on classwork and other social benefits, such as clubs and career fairs, etc.? Yeah, so that's a really great question, because I took the statistical inference class and the algorithms class. And you know, I'm a working professional. I work full-time. And you know, I have a pretty active social life outside of work. I like to go to the gym every day. You know, I like to spend some time with my girlfriend. And so how do you manage all of that? And so to be honest, I'll say that, oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, I'm getting a phone call. I am going to try to pause that. Sorry about that, everybody. So, you know, the way I balanced that was by not sleeping. To be honest, you know, when I was an undergraduate, I worked my way through college, and I worked nights then. And during my first master's, I actually finished it very quickly. This is a 2-year program. I did it in 1, and I did it by pretty much not sleeping. So I'm used to that. I don't recommend it for everybody. It does suck sometimes. It just does. You know, there are a lot of other working professionals that do it too, and they're tired. And actually, some of them have it much harder because they have, you know, families. You know, I know one of my peers. She had 3 kids, and it was definitely tough for her. But she did it, and you know, perseverance and diligence will get you through it. It's just, it's not going to be a relaxed state, but it'll be worth it. It'll absolutely be worth it, even for knowledge alone. For someone who has never worked in data science before and does not have a technical background, do you think there's still a good opportunity to make a career shift into data science after certificate or master's? Absolutely. You know, everyone starts somewhere. You know, I did my my first master's in statistics because I wanted to break into the field of statistics and predictive modeling. And before that, I didn't have a background. I think I did a summer of HR as an internship, and it helped me understand how recruiters think about hiring people. And so it was useful in that way, but it didn't help me get into the field directly, maybe indirectly. So, there's absolutely, this is absolutely what you would use to break into the field. Back at AIG, we used to have super days where I would just interview hundreds of students, not hundreds of students, but dozens of students from Columbia, Princeton, MIT, and assess that way. And they were all fresh from college. And so it's a great way to break into the field. So let's see, can I are the classes more project-based or theoretical? Both. There are definitely a lot of theory in the classes, and the question is, how deep is theory, right? Do you go at it from treatment of just, deriving it algebraically, or do you prove a theorem about it using analysis, which is a much more sophisticated set of tools? And we involve both, a lot of statistics is actually, and machine learning, it's pretty fancy calculus and algebra. So and linear algebra, so that's not too bad. But there are occasions, where we'll use analysis to actually understand the bounds of something. So there's definitely some theoretical parts, but there's a lot of applications in it too. I mean, the homeworks for machine learning all had an application portion to it. And in algorithms, there was 2 coding homework assignments, and the rest were more theoretical. But algorithms inherently is a more theoretical course, and it should be. It's all about understanding that framework. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see. Again, for large data sets provided by or hands-on projects, I recommend Kaggle. Again, Kaggle.com. Just Google it. Kaggle. In fact, I will send you all a message with it. Kaggle.com. This is a really great question. I have a strong programming background, but not so much on the math statistics side. It seems the math statistics background is key to the program and data science overall. Did you have any other students with my profile in your class? What would you suggest for someone in my situation? Yeah, so, I'm always biased because I'm from a statistics background and I wasn't a programmer. So I always think programming is harder. And then, people in the programming always say statistics is harder. So, my recommendation would be to just study up on algebra, calculus, and linear algebra. You can really think about statistical inference as just that. You can start reading up on Coursera, take some regression classes. I think Coursera is great. I mean, there are students in the program who take Coursera courses even as they're in the program. It's a really useful way to hear another perspective about how a problem is solved or a topic. But the program is really important. You can, in fact, there are a ton of web resources about a hacker's approach to R and statistics. Statistics is actually pretty intuitive, I would say. So, exercise as many of those online tools as you can, because I think it'll be really helpful. What kind of electives do you recommend to choose? Great. Oh, also, my name is not Joshua. My name is Francisco. They're ending class. Okay, so, it depends on what you're interested in. I'm focusing, so this fall I'll be taking advanced machine learning and big data and analytics, which is focusing on how do you parallelize an algorithm. So when you think about a company like Amazon or Facebook or Google, they have thousands of computers, and if they want to run a regression on a terabyte or a petabyte size data set, well, you can't trivially do that. You have to split up the problem and send it to a bunch of different computers. And the big data analytics class focuses on that. And I'm interested in that because I think that's fun. And the advanced machine learning class I'm taking because I really love John Paisley's first class. I think he's a really bright professor. And that was my kind of focus for this program, was to try to get focused and improve my machine learning skills. Because I think it's a really useful way to understand the world. So a question, do you know what is the salary range for an entry-level data scientist position? It's varied. It is. I can give you a range, but it's a very large range. I've heard of people, depending on what you do, right? So you could end up getting somewhere really low if you don't perform well in the program, and if you're competing with a lot of people, and you're working with a lower tier firm, or you could potentially get something really great by going with a really big company or having a lot of experience. So it's too really variant of an interval to give a precise estimate. So sorry if that's not helpful. And that's all that we got for now. But again, feel free to shoot questions as I finish through. We're almost done. But I will give one more opportunity to answer some questions. So feel free to ask them. Some stories outside the classroom. Back when I was at AIG, when I was taking Sid's class, I had the opportunity to present at the Predictive Analytics Conference in Chicago on some work that I had done with our legal department, their legal department. And that was a really great opportunity. It was while I was taking Sid's class, and a lot of the topics actually related in a really profound way. And then separately, one of my former colleagues from AIG, who went to a reinsurance company now, is their VP data scientist, or chief data scientist. He invited me to give a lecture in his class. He actually was teaching a machine learning class at NYU Poly. And so I gave a lecture on something that I know pretty well, which is on penalized maximum likelihood or regularization methods for regression. And so, that was really cool opportunity. I got to really meet with a bunch of different students and talk about some of the things that I learned in the program. And I had a pretty deep knowledge about these particular tools, and the machine learning class actually expanded my knowledge of them, and I incorporated that into my slides. And these are also available on my GitHub if you're interested. Probably not that interesting to you. And these are what some of the slides looked like, because I thought it was kind of fun to share. Obviously this is some kind of weird, funky math, and you'd have to know the paper in order to understand what exactly this is, or I'd have to walk you through it, but it's not really important for now. But I just thought it was a cool thing to show that I got to do outside of the classroom. But, being part of the Columbia community definitely helped provide me credibility in teaching this lecture. And on top of that, we have a great online community, especially, one of the students, Erin Lee. She really is active and proactive about connecting with students. So I highly encourage you, those that have been accepted to the program, to join the Data Science Institute students that Jonathan should have emailed you about. And to like the Facebook page, because they share a ton of cool information about, sometimes work that the classmates have done, and other stuff. I posted on the Facebook group last night about the Google's Deep Dream, which I don't know if any of you have read about that, but it's a really fascinating thing that they're doing with machine learning. And, it's just a community where you can share new hip things. In fact, that's how we make decisions about socializing, where events may or may not happen. And so it's a pretty nice way for us all stay connected together. And it's a great professional network. Columbia's alumni network and career advisory is incredible. It's among the best in the world. And it opens up so many doors. Part of my reason for going to Columbia is absolutely because it's definitely helped in my career so far, and what my expectations are about it to help in the future. It goes without saying that, but I'll say it anyways. Columbia is among the best universities in the world, and the best firms in the world definitely recruit from us. So just on that alone, it's always worth it. I know some complaints I've read in forums in the past, like on Grad Cafe, or that Columbia's program is really expensive. But if you look at it as a return on investment decision, that might not still be true. Especially when I looked at my peers from similar programs from Columbia at AIG, people that were really successful had gone through a lot of programs from different departments at Columbia. So it definitely adds a lot of value to professionally. And now the last part is the last time I'll ask you guys to shoot me some questions. So are there any more questions left? Again, the presentation's just about over. Thank you for sitting through this really long, solo act. So again, feel free to shoot me any questions now. There will be an online recording, and we will publish that in the future. And I'll tell you guys the lie after these sets of questions. So again, the electives I recommend. One thing that I forgot to mention about that was you can take electives from a variety of different departments. I don't know if you can take them from the computer science departments. You can in the summer, but during the fall, they're restrained. But you can take electives from the electrical engineering department, the statistics department, the mathematics department, and the advisors are pretty flexible about the electives you choose. And so that's pretty great. Are there any more questions left? I want to give just a little bit. Oh, yes. So online recording of classes and lectures. That's a really good question. They actually do. They do record the lectures online. And you submit all the homeworks online too. So, I remember for the machine learning class, we had 100 people in our class, and I only ever saw like 30 until the final. But people were all, doing their stuff online and submitting online just without a problem. So it's definitely very flexible in that way. Oh, and this photo is from the certificate reception that we had about a month ago. It was really great. All of us in the certificate program that were either going on to the master's program or graduating from the certificate program got together and spent some time and talked about career goals and where everybody was off to. So it was a really great opportunity for that. So there's definitely a lot of socializing and networking in the program. There is a lot, and it's a really, really useful part of the program. All right, so last chance for questions. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, so 2 truths and a lie. I never salsa danced. In college, I was an amateur boxer and I delivered pizza. I kind of mentioned and gave it away. But you guys all thought let's see. I got salsa dancing was the one that people, so most people got it. All right, yeah. And so that's the end of the presentation. Again, this will be published online. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to listen to me while I babble about my experience at Columbia. But again, I'd really like to emphasize how much of a pleasure it's been at this university for me. I know everyone's decision to choose a university over another one is very much their own. And I recommend that you think deeply about your choice. But especially when you make a financial choice, I highly recommend you all to really think about the lifetime value of something. To do a naive one-time cost assessment is probably not the best metric. So if like one program's 40 grand versus another being 50, yeah, $10,000 is a lot of money. But if you end up earning $5,000 more because you went to one school over another, over 2 years, the ROI is already greater than 1 if you don't discount for the time value of money. But I highly encourage you guys to really think deeply about what program is best for you. And I invite you to visit the campus. It'll take your breath away. It did for me. NYU's campus is cool. I went and saw it. Their staff is fantastic. They're a great team. Would I have preferred NYU over Columbia? No, I chose Columbia. So the last part, the admissions website, obviously want to point you to that. My email, if you have any questions for me, that's it right there. We will email all of you that attended and gave your email this presentation along with the video recording, I believe. There's more on LiveGuide. The gentleman that helped me put this slide together, I definitely want to thank them. Josh has been incredibly helpful. And so has Jonathan and everybody else involved. And there's my GitHub. It's some neat stuff, not that useful. But if you want a way to connect with me through my LinkedIn, it has all of my contact information on GitHub. You can Google me. I should come up. If not, then just keep searching. So again, thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Please feel free to follow up with me about any questions. And best of luck on your applications. And we look forward to seeing you in the fall. Alrighty, bye-bye.